allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, you have time to look the minutes over. Public comment. Public comment. Oh, you're gonna go with that. Okay, public comments first then. Laurel Adams.
I was just gonna say, to be honest, I really wasn't even gonna speak, but I know you guys have your minds made up. I just wanted to say that, like, my main concerns are the health, safety, and well-being of my children and myself and our community. The traffic on an already crazy road, the noise from that traffic, our water and the air. I have health problems as it is, and I just really don't need any more. I think if these wells are gonna be here, if they could just be, far enough away from people's homes that there's not a real big issue with, a lot of distractions. I think that'd just be the most important thing. Thank you.
Warren Hickman.
Thank you.
I'll give a copy of this, save you taking minutes.
Thank you.
Warren Hickman, 224 Beechwood Road, New Wilmington. My comments and questions pertain to the attached, which I gave here. And the attached is a copy of the December 21st ordinance that was approved, plus the amendments and comments that were made at the Planning Commissioners meeting on March 15th, which I tried to put together to the best of my ability. You're looking at the ordinance tonight. I'm judging from what they said. So these are the comments. On page 3, and that's page 3 of this attached, the ordinance, it's the setbacks. And the setbacks were changed. They're a little better, I think, than before, but they're not great. So an average well pad is about 3.1 acres, according to online information from Hillcorp. And there's usually about a 5.5 construction area with that. So an average well pad is about 8.8 acres for one well. And so I drew a diagram of a square of that. And if you measure from the well bore to the edge of that 8.8 acres, that construction, it's more than 300 feet. It comes out 309.6 feet. And on the setbacks in the ordinance, it says to a perennial stream is 300 feet. So this would be right up against a perennial stream, which I think is a real problem in this area. Also wetlands. So I think that needs to be reconsidered. Also, that would go over the property line, which is listed there, of 300 feet to, I think it's 250 on the agricultural sections too, properties. So I see that as a problem. Also, many of the well pads are multiple well pads, so they're much larger. And they would definitely, threaten the perennial streams in the wetlands. The second comment I have is on page 7E6, which I have all written down there for you. It said in the ordinance it's about reduced emissions completion systems, and it has an explanation about this. And the planning commissioners took all that out, and they said just C40 CFR Part 63. And I didn't think that was adequate, because if somebody in the township or that gets a copy of the ordinance, that's all they're going to see. They have no idea what that means. And so this is about emissions. And if they see that the emissions are there, they have no idea that's what this refers to. So I would recommend that that is put back in, that statement from that ordinance. so that people understand it. My third one is, what do I have, 4 minutes, 5? This is on page 11, 800.21A, 5B3. It refers to the building on a compressor station. I would recommend that you take out the comment that says that the driller has an option of not putting up the building. I think that's a real mistake. They have a lot of money. They can certainly put up a building to protect our children and the people of this community. As of March 24th, Forbes reports that Jeffrey Hillebrand, who owns Hillcorp, he is worth $4.9 billion. That means if he spent $100,000 a day, it would take him 100 years to spend all his money. He can afford to put a whole new building up. Please, don't let them have a waiver. Just say a building is required. Thank you.
Sir, if I may, just for clarification, when you talked about the 309.6 feet right up against the stream, you indicated you weren't comfortable with that
That's correct.
footage. It's just what's something that you are comfortable with.
Well, seeing multiple well pads, how large they are and everything, I would say at least 500.
Okay.
At least.
And I think you had another issue concerning the proximity to the perennial streams. Does the 500 cover that, or do you prefer
Well, I think
something
I'd
larger?
have to look again. Tracy, maybe you have that. I have to find the page again. Page 3.
And if you wanna give that to me, and then I'll just make a copy from yours.
Thank you.
The commissioners recommended 250 feet up to an industrial or agricultural property line. So this would even go over that.
You want more?
Page 3.
Okay.
Now, this is what my understanding is from that meeting, when they discussed this, that they made that setback from unconventional wells to 250 feet.
And you're comfortable, you want the 750, is that what you wrote in, or is that?
That's what they recommended.
That's what they recommend.
Yeah, no, the 250 is right above it. The 250 was for agricultural and industrial.
That's what you're comfortable with, or you want more?
No, the 300 would go over that too.
Thank you. Is it Rhonda?
Yep,
Is it Peterson?
Peterson.
Thank you, Rhonda.
My turn, I guess.
It is.
I too would like to say what Warren said. Basically, I just really want the language, if this goes through, I want the language to be changed so that buildings are required for compressor stations. I mean, that's a huge concern, in terms of the noise and the pollution, and I too believe that there's plenty of money, at their disposal to make those concessions for our community. I wasn't really planning to speak tonight, so I just jotted down a few notes on my
Sure.
phone. So I just want to make a general comment, basically, after I've just been involved over the past year watching the process unfold here, and I've been very disturbed by what I've seen, primarily because as community members, we've come and asked questions over and over again. We've asked how people are getting information to make these really very important decisions for our community, and no one ever answers those questions. Nobody says where they're getting information other than they're following state, recommended requirements. But our community is different than other communities. We have a lot of Amish in the community. We have other things to consider. We're very small. Everybody's packed together. I just really think that there ought to be a lot more information seeking from you guys and from the Planning Commission. At the meeting that we attended a couple weeks ago at the Planning Commission, they were just pulling numbers out of the air. It was really obvious that there was no thought going on regarding setbacks. It was just, I like this number. No, I like this number. And I'm just sitting there going, you've got to be kidding me. This is our future for the next 30 years possibly. Compressor stations are around for that long. I don't know how long the wells will be active. This is the lives of our children. Our kids are going to be in their 40s and 50s when all of this ultimately plays out. They may not have drinking water. They may have polluted air. The environment's going to be completely different. The landscape is going to be different. We're going to have ugliness where now there's this pastoral beauty that you don't see this anywhere else. This area is unique, and I think we need to respect it. We need to be thoughtful about it, and really, for our kids, for our future children, for those of you who don't have kids yet, I think we need to really stop and slow this process down and do it right. That's all I have to say.
Go on.
Hi, Bill Hahn, Indian Run Road, Volant, PA. I would appreciate what Mrs. Peterson said, and kind of would like to, I don't have anything prepared either, but would like to tag off of that and say that I'm sure all of you know about Oil City, Pennsylvania, and the boom that they went through way back in the 40s, and how well that area was, and now what a wasteland it is today. And Dimmick, Pennsylvania is not so far beyond that in the fact that they went through the oil and gas boom recently, just with a deep well drilling, and now see what has gone on in that community. And some people there were just recently awarded a lot of money because their water was contaminated because of the deep well oil and gas drilling. So I've asked the supervisors many times to tell me where their decision-making process and due diligence has come in. And again, I've yet to hear an answer. I've sat through meetings for 2 years and not heard one word from any of the supervisors about where they've made their decisions. I know that that my wife Carrie and a lot of people that are here tonight have submitted a lot of information, and I hope that's being taken into consideration, as well as what other information that the supervisors are getting. And I would like to see that in writing for the people of this community. I think you owe it to us. You work for us. That's your job. You work for us. So I would like to know in writing where you get that information. Thank you.
Carry on.
Carrie Hahn, Indian Run, Volant. First, I want to make a statement that my attorney recommended I say tonight. With regard to tonight's proceedings and prior planning commissioners meeting, I'm objecting on procedural and substantial grounds and not waiving any of my objections. I have some articles. The first is from the Newcastle News about the continued noise issues, near the Siegel well pad and compressor station. Nothing being done there to mitigate the problems enough for the residents. All they want is for that building to be enclosed. And since the last planning meeting, when they decided to go ahead without insisting that we have a building on a compressor station, I asked some people around the state if they could tell me where some compressor stations were that don't have buildings. And so far I've had not one response, and that was 2 weeks ago. I can't find anybody in the state to show me another company that doesn't enclose their buildings, the compressor stations. The next article, I think we're going back for a minute, but this is an article about the federal natural gas air pollution safety standards and how obsolete they are. This article is about Representative Gibson, and he asked FERC chairman to include public health expertise that is independent, credible, and free of conflicts of interest as part of the federal environmental review. He wrote that the current federal exposure standards for air pollution near gas compressor stations may be inadequate to protect public health. Many of these standards were set many years ago and may be obsolete. Those standards rely on averaging emission levels of benzene, as well as methane, hexane, and other volatile organic compounds over long periods of time, and may not address higher exposure rates at peak times, which is what our issue are. There's release that happen in these communities, and so people living nearby are being directly impacted by these short bursts. Here's the other copy of that. And then next, I would like to invite all of you personally to an event at Wilmington Area High School in the cafeteria on April 27th at 7 p.m. The speaker that night is Patrice Tomsick. She's from the Moms Clean Air Force, and she's going to talk about setbacks and how important it is that the wells are set back away from our children and the schools. So she'll be talking a lot about air quality in the shale fields.
What date was that again?
April 26th,
7th or
26th?
27th.
You said 27th.
27th? What did I say?
You said the
You said
27th.
27, but it's 26.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you have April 26th.
I wrote 26
7th.
too. I don't know where that
Yeah,
came from.
okay.
Sorry. And then also on May 3rd, another event at the Westminster, and this is going to be a launch for a new film that's being done. There was a 30-month investigation of the DEP, and they looked into water quality issues and how those reports were followed up by the DEP, and they found thousands of cases where they were not properly addressed. So they'll be releasing their information and their report at Westminster College on May 3rd. Thank you. What time? Sorry, 7 p.m.
Is it L?
Yes.
L Rutner?
Yes. I'm gonna make the supervisors happy tonight because I'm not gonna talk about property values. And probably the basic reason is I've never really gotten a very good answer about the decrease in property values and what the supervisor's gonna do to prevent that. But what I like to talk about is the fact that I hear all of these things about disadvantages of fracking wells, health, everything that you can talk about. Everything's bad. There's nothing good about fracking other than people are going to make money. So what I like to do is ask a question. I don't know, when you guys are able to answer questions and when you can't answer questions, but I think you should put this somehow in the record. I'd like to know from the three supervisors if they have or are going to receive any monetary value from changing the ordinance, you or your family. I think there should be some financial disclosure, and if there is some type of advantage that you're going to be receiving money, you should recuse yourself from this vote. So, however you do it, put it on a record. I know I asked this question a long time ago, and basically I got 2 no's, and Elder, you said you had a lawsuit or something, but you never answered the question. So I think it's very important. That's the only thing I see why we're even talking about this. People are making money. Otherwise, there's no advantage. It's all a major disadvantage for the community. So however you can do it, please answer that question.
You okay with me?
I have nothing involved in it.
I have nothing. I have no gas and oil leaks.
I do.
And will you recuse yourself?
Yeah, that issue, we're not at the point where there's gonna be a vote on anything, and at that particular juncture, you know, I will advise the supervisors accordingly on their ability to vote. I didn't participate in the two previous votes, I wasn't counsel, but, we'll address that when we're ready to vote on an actual piece of legislation.
Will you also talk about the families? It may not be yourself, but it could be your mother, father, brother, sister.
Well, that's governed by the Ethics Act, and that would be, I mean, you're asking a question, if you want me to answer it, I'll answer it.
Please go ahead.
Okay. It's governed by the Ethics Act, and that would be addressed in any abstention concerning a vote as well. I can't recite the act off the top of my head for you, but there is, inclusion language in that as well. Is there anyone that I may have missed, this evening for public comment? Just so you know, point of order, Mr. Chairman, we're gonna proceed through the agenda. There are a couple oil and gas items on here tonight, and basically what we're doing is gonna take the piece of legislation that came out of the Planning Commission. We're gonna put a number on it for 2016, and then we're gonna have the ability to distribute that, so you may review it as members of the public and provide any further comments on it. In addition to that, I'm gonna provide a copy to each of the supervisors that they can make comments as well. And your comments, the attorney's comments, and the supervisor's comments, we're gonna put to the Wilmington Township Planning Commission for their 19th meeting in April. And in addition to that, I have some comments that I'd like to refer to them as well through our minutes this evening. So, yes,
Can I
ma'am.
just ask a question? Whenever you do that at the next planning commission, could you be present so that you can advise some of the different planning commissioners that are a little bit stubborn and bullheaded?
No,
Sorry, I didn't know how else
I
to
don't know
put
who
it.
she's talking about.
I understand perfectly, and that's something that we'll address as we get closer to the meeting. You know, my philosophy is to advise, but I'm not gonna tell someone how to vote on a particular issue.
Sure, but maybe your advice as to what you think.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Could
Chairman?
I? Okay, what I've been missing all along here for the last 8 months or whatever, I'd just like to sit down and have a good discussion.
I agree,
And,
I agree.
you know, see where people are coming from.
Sure.
See, and we don't have that.
No, I agree. Well, I can't speak for what has gone on previously, but there were a number of articles that have been submitted, at the public hearings and at the public meetings, and I was up here, I had the ability to review, and I think, Tracy, you have a whole crate full of material, and to say that no one has looked at it, I think is a little bit unfair, because it has been reviewed. Some of the new material that you provided at the last meetings, I have taken a look at some of it, and everybody makes a valid point. It's not that you're not being considered, but you know, what I would like to do is, once we get through the procedure, you know, have the ability to have an exchange and answer some questions that you may have concerning this. You know.
What do you mean?
I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no, and I think, excuse me?
You said after you get through the procedure,
Yeah,
you mean
there's
after it's already,
No, there's a
enacted?
process that you have to go through, and you have to go through the planning commission, you have to go through the county planning commission. I don't wanna have a piece of legislation up here that nobody has seen, that nobody's provided any comments, and that no one's asked any questions. And we don't have a final piece of legislation yet. And I don't think it's a good, use of our time to comment on something that isn't in final form or ready to go, because it may change. The comments that come out of the Wilmington Planning Commission may be different than the comments that come out of the Lawrence County Planning Commission. And all that's part of the due diligence process. My comments are maybe different, you know.
So, once you finally have it finalized,
Then-
what do you
Then we're
see
gonna
as
have
the
a public
procedure?
hearing. Once
Okay.
we have a piece of legislation that we're comfortable that went through the procedure,
Mhm.
then we'll have a final hearing. Now, the final hearing may take a minute, it may take 10 hours, but that's where we have the record and the stenographer and everyone gets to submit their opinions. But I'd like to streamline it a little bit by releasing some of this information now.
And there's time to then take the public comments
Absolutely,
into account and
yes,
do rewriting if necessary?
if necessary. You know, but if you make a change to it from the podium prior to you voting, technically it should be submitted back to the planning commissions again
So
for
you're really
review.
not gonna wanna do that?
Well, no, that's what we're doing now, right now.
Right.
We're gonna pass out the legislation, review it, and provide the comments to Wilmington Township Planning Commission.
But I really don't know how this all goes, so I'm
Okay.
saying, at the formal public hearing, what do you call it? What's the?
I call it a hearing on the
Hearing.
adoption of the ordinance.
Okay,
Correct.
you have it the way you want it. And then you ask people to come in and comment, but at that point, you really don't wanna have to change it,
No, I'm not saying
cause
that.
then you'd have to re-advertise and.
No, but that's okay.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we have to make a determination what's gonna be final.
Mhm.
We have to make a determination of when that's gonna go up for a vote. The final piece of legislation, you may have 3 people that don't agree on it and may not vote for it. So then we have to go back to the drawing board.
It always just seemed like,
It
once it's
seemed
been
like you didn't
adver-
have any, it seemed like you didn't
After-
have any say until the last minute.
Right, and then, once it's been advertised, then if you wanna change it, then there's another delay,
Well,
and
that's-
people don't want another delay, and,
You
you
can
know.
thank the legislature for the municipal
Well,
planning code that requires us to do that.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying that you don't seem to want any delays. You wanna get it done, you don't wanna have to take, make changes, advertise again, possibly make changes the delays don't seem to be something
Well-
you're in favor. Not you, but
I understand,
the whole
but-
process.
I mean, two years, I mean, how long do you, I mean, how much more do you have to go on with it? I mean,
Well, we
essentially,
have
this has
something
been going,
in place, right?
but this has been going on for 2 years, right?
No.
It was
It
in
has it?
place in 2014.
Okay, this is 2016,
But
That's,
It was
That's because-
November 2014, wasn't it?
okay.
that's a year.
Well, I mean, at the rate we're
There
going,
was
we'll
no
be,
reason to
we'll be
start
November
changing it.
2017.
It might
if that's what it
require-
takes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's
I
saying
mean,
at
are you
some
saying
point.
there is a limit? Like, it should only take a year, it should
No,
only
but
take
like,
2 years?
we're going on 2 years.
But this is a really important.
I understand that.
To our environment, to
listen,
our health, to,
I understand it, I get it.
okay, just,
I
it
get it.
seems to me there shouldn't be a time limit on getting it right.
I didn't say that there was, all I said was,
You said it's
We're
been
going on-
2 years.
That's right.
Well, that
Yeah.
sounds like you're ready to be done with it.
no, but I mean, I think it's been vetted for quite some time.
But it wasn't really 2 years, it's been 1 year. The supervisors, my understanding is, were told that the 2014 ordinance was illegal in some spot. The lawsuit, I'm sorry? And
Right.
that's when it
I
started
understand.
changing.
I understand.
So it's sort of been 1 year since that.
But how long did
It
it
hasn't
take to
even
do
been a
the?
year. It's been since like June or July of last year that we all heard that it was gonna be revised again.
Dismantled, because it was
And
too.
I still don't know who decided it was too strict.
I wasn't here for that. Can't
I mean,
answer
who
that.
made that decision?
Can I ask a quick question? So what point in the process do we get an understanding and have a conversation? When does that piece
Well,
come up, and when do the supervisors tell
Sure.
us where they have gotten their information?
Well, we set it up for the public hearing, and that's how it will be advertised, public hearing on
So the
ordinance such and
supervisors
such.
will actually speak at the public hearing?
I'm gonna encourage that, yes.
Okay.
Will it be held at a venue that can accommodate all the people who are interested?
I think we're comfortable with the venue that we're in.
But you realize that at the October
I was here.
meeting, there were 30 people outside.
I was
and
one
more
of them,
people
yes.
Who left, and it was stuffed beyond the 75 person
I understand, maybe
capacity.
we'll need more than one night for a public hearing.
Well, I would just encourage you to act in the best interests
Sure,
of longevity and to really consider this moral dilemma versus this money dilemma. Because in the final analysis, that's what it's coming down to. It's a moral issue of caring for creation, caring for our neighbors, ourselves, our future generations. It's a moral issue no matter how much we don't want to name it
Sure.
that.
I understand.
And it's a money issue. And I think we all have to identify who we are as human beings and what we value most. Because you're coming down to choice time. Money, moral victory. And you can't escape it. It's a hard place to be, but that's what you're coming down to, and you have more conclusive evidence than anyone needs to realize the dangers that come with it. And we are not alarmists, we are not earth muffins, we are realists. And we
Understand.
want you to have the courage and the integrity and the foresight to act for the well-being of yourselves, your neighbors, your children, your land, in everything. And for the larger earth, because this is all interrelated. It's not just this little piece right here. This connects to the whole planet. And it's an opportunity if you would just rise up and take it. And that's when I get so frustrated, is you have the capabilities. And there you sit.
Mr. Chair, we ready to move on?
I hope so. Move.
I would like to just ask one more thing about the space. The supervisors did contact the insurance company about opening up the garage previously, and they were told that it wasn't recommended.
It's my understanding.
But could we go back to the insurance company and ask what they need to do to make it permittable? Is it just some chemicals that need to be stored properly, or equipment that needs to be moved?
Yeah, I don't know what the specific reasoning behind it was.
If it's nice weather, could we just do it
Yeah,
outside?
well, listen, when we get to that particular juncture, whether it's May or June or December or January of next year, that's something that we'll have to, these folks will have to consider.
Capacity is 75. There are more than 75 people interested in attending.
I understand that.
Well, 75.
Okay. I was here, both meetings. I mean, I
So
saw.
I'm thinking, why would you not have it at a larger place? The high school auditorium, the high school cafeteria,
Yeah.
where there's plenty of parking, people can all be inside and here,
Yeah.
rather than out here crammed in over the capacity, standing outside.
I understand.
Doesn't seem very businesslike.
No, I
very.
understand. Thanks.
Move on with our meeting. We had time to look the minutes over. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March.
I'll second
Yes, Jeremy.
Yes.
it. Yes. motion to approve the bills and payroll?
Motion to pay the bills and payroll.
Second.
Dave?
Yes.
Darren?
Yes.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to authorize sewage module of Hank Mesta's property to connect to the sewer line service? Sign off as having enough, is that the capacity?
The sewage authority, they're fine with this, Jason?
Sewer authority already signed off on it.
Okay.
The sewage enforcement officer's already been out there.
I'll make a motion to, authorize the sewage module for Hank Mesta.
I'll second it. Darren?
Yes.
Harry? Yes. Dave?
Yes. A motion to number the oil and gas ordinance of 2016. I'll make that motion.
I think it's gonna be number 1 of 2016.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'll second it, that we number it. Darren?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Yes.
A motion to review and refer the comments of the ordinance to number 1, 2016 of the Wilmington Township Planning Commission.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Yes. Dave?
Yes.
Darren?
Yes.
A motion to distribute ordinance number 1, 2016 to Angela Paper,
Esquire?
Who?
Esquire?
Esquire, John Money, Esquire, and Blaine Lucas, Esquire, for review and comments. I'll make that motion.
I just have a question. John Haney
He's
is,
insurance exchange.
okay. I'll second, unless you did.
Dave?
Yes.
Darren?
Yes.
Yes.
A motion to post the ordinance number 1 of 2016 at the Wilmington Township building. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Darren?
Yes.
Dave?
Mr. Chairman, point of order, just for the minutes, and if you can take this down, Tracy. Most likely there'll be a numbered ordinance here at the Township building, by noon tomorrow. So that'll be posted. Additionally, just some comments that, I wanted to provide for the record. to frame some issues that I took a look at. In the draft that was submitted from the planning commission, it has to address, either repealing or amending the previous ordinances that were filed of record here in the township. That wasn't addressed in this particular, language. Additionally, there were a few instances in where there was a reference to special exceptions that there should have been references to conditional uses. I want to make a point of clarification. In the section where they talk about traffic and discussing it with the township and the school district, there makes reference to borough council members, and I think that should be borough representatives, just in case a council member or the council can designate a representative. That's the discussion concerning the traffic plan, not any approvals concerning the oil and gas. And additionally, there's a reference in here having it documents filed at the county courthouse. We typically make reference to the Register and Recorder's Office of Lawrence County if you want to file any type of documents. So I would want to have that modified in the documentation as well. And one thing that I did catch, and excuse my ignorance, is it Wilmington Township Planning Commission or Planning Committee? Because they have committee in the document, they should take a look at that. And the last issue on the last page, when it talks about the compressor central station and the compressor transmission stations, C and D tend to conflict a little bit. I think that needs a little bit of clarification. And one thing that I know that came up at some of the previous hearings and public meetings about this is concerning the water testing, and I'm not sure if that was vetted at the last commission meeting or not. That was just a review that I did. I'm sure I may have something a little more formal prior to the April 19th meeting. So I didn't come here tonight with a numbered ordinance because I didn't know how the Board of Supervisors were going to take action on numbering this piece of legislation. So there'll be something issued to the township that'll be posted, and we'll disseminate to those other individuals, and if anybody wants to make right-to-know copies for them, you can do that as well. So, thank you.
Motion to approve an executive session for discussion of legal issues and personnel.
I'll make that motion to go to executive session.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Yes.
Excuse us for a few moments.